Welcome back. 5 news stories the mainstream media ignored this week. While the mainstream media was busy obsessing about porn stars in Thailand, here are the things this week that the mainstream media ignored that really matter. A new report reveals Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel is routinely chauffeured around his district by armed deputies because of threats against him. After Sheriff Israel scolded gun owners and said the only way to stand up for the victims of the Parkland school shooting was to advocate for fewer guns, he surrounds himself with guns, but won't support guarding our kids at schools with guns. Funny how the mainstream media refuses to report that hypocrisy. The Women's March refuses to disavow radical hate preacher Louis Farrakhan. Farrakhan calls for the death of white people. He calls Jews evil. He wants to behead gay people and praises Adolf Hitler as a very great man. But the Women's March not only attends Farrakhan's speech and applauds for him, when they are called out for palling around with a racist bigot, they refuse to condemn Farrakhan by name. Makes you wonder why the mainstream media doesn't seem to care about Democrats' association with bigots, even while they've spent the past 2 years accusing the opposite political party of systemic racism. Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer called President Trump a racist. That happened in January. Fast forward to March, Senator Schumer refuses to confirm a judicial nominee because of the man's skin color. Schumer wouldn't vote for him because the nominee has white skin. But did you hear about that from the mainstream media? Oh no, you didn't. Imagine if this situation were reversed. The mainstream media would be lighting up the airwaves. But because it's a Democrat being a racist, they just ignore it. The NAACP is now advocating for a gun confiscation program like Australia's. Meanwhile, former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice says growing up in the Deep South, her family and other black families protected themselves against white supremacists with firearms. Why would the NAACP advocate for disarming black Americans when the right to bear arms is such an integral part of the safety and freedom for black Americans in our not too distant history? Well, we'll never know because the mainstream media doesn't care enough to ask astute or fair questions. The Florida State Senate rejects a ban on assault weapons and votes in favor of arming teachers in schools to protect kids. But did the mainstream media tell you about that story? Oh no, they didn't, because the mainstream media is committed to pushing the progressive narrative that most people want to ban AR-15s. Clearly, that is not true. The mainstream media doesn't care to report any of that to you, so we will. And that is my final point. You can reach me on Twitter at Liz_Wheeler. If you like the show, please send me an email at oann.com/contact. In the meantime, catch us here tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. And until then, have a good night.